Hey everybody, welcome to the Redmen TV and your latest episode of the Transfer Podcast. My name is Dan Clum. I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderful Abby Woodkin.
Thank you. I like that. It's a nice little intro.
Well, I try to perk people's spirits before we get going, and hopefully that did that.
Yeah, it did. I'm already in a bit of a good mood in terms of, transfer stuff.
Yeah, well, it's exciting times. And literally, as we were going live, and moments before we hit live on YouTube, news is breaking left, right and centre. So we'll dive straight into that because Alexander Isak, of course, is the hottest topic in town right now when it comes to Liverpool. I've had a super chat already, by the way. And thanks to Ross for getting involved. We've got loads and loads of things to talk about. But Keith Downey has tweeted, I spoke to Keith yesterday at the pleasure and the privilege of doing that, obviously of Sky Sports North East Parish. There's been lots of murmurings about Alexander Isak returning to training and what that looks like and what guys he actually does return in. It turns out he kind of has and hasn't returned to training, Abby. Before we dive into the details and what's been said, again, literally as we were coming live, in terms of your confidence levels when it comes to Isak now, because obviously we've known Liverpool really like him, he clearly wants to come to Liverpool. The Benjamin Sesko thing felt like a bit of a spanner in the works for us, but are you still relatively confident that we can make this happen?
24 hours ago, I think I was like, 90%. I think this is going to happen. I thought Newcastle might actually end up winning the Sesko debacle going on, and then all of a sudden you see those tweets last night saying Sesko to Man United, and I had a little bit of a sinking feeling where I thought, oh no, could this finally start unravelling for us? Mm-hmm. But there is this whole thing of, is there any way back for Isak now? When you see he's training on his own and he's got to wait till all the families and the players go from, I don't know, is it some sort of barbecue they've got going on today that he's not invited to? And obviously Eddie Howe's come out and said you have to earn the right to train with us, and he's obviously not happy with his behaviour. I do wonder whether that sort of means he's ours no matter what, because who wants that sort of disruption in their team? I mean, if it was one of our players, I'd be saying, oh, just get rid of him. But Newcastle aren't in the same situation as us. When you're going into Champions League football, you want Alexander Isak to be playing for you. And, even if he's playing angry and he doesn't want to be there, he's probably still going to score a lot of goals for them. So I'm probably on around the 60% mark now, possibly. But I am still quite confident that it's going to happen, because I just don't think these sort of things happen where he's just been completely bombed out unless something's moving. No,
I agree. It feels really, really complicated up there in terms of reintegrating him into the squad. And the news that, like I say, we have had just before we went live only sort of rings true when it comes to that as well. Keith Downey has tweeted that Alexander Isak will train / receive treatment away from the main group today. References another journalist from the North East area, says Isak didn't train with the squad on their first day back this morning, but then he exclusively reveals that the striker has been told to report on his own to the training ground after the rest of the players and their families have left. And then obviously that chicken drumstick you can see there is reference to the barbecue they will be having with the families at the Newcastle training ground at lunch, but Isak will not be allowed to attend. Again, it feels really, really murky. Like a lot of water has gone under the bridge now. Obviously, there was the not playing in the Celtic game a couple of weeks ago, not going on tour with them, which if he was injured, if he did have this thigh problem, which he may well still have, that's one thing, but not taking your prized possession away on what is essentially a bit of a PR tour feels a bit odd. And then obviously goes to Real Sociedad, San Sebastian and trains on his own. The whole thing, Abby, you were just saying it there, the whole thing feels problematic for Eddie Howe, it feels problematic for Newcastle. And whilst he is, by some distance, I would say their best player, I don't see the benefit in them keeping what is now seemingly a really, really unhappy Alexander Isak.
I think the tide's changing now, because I was watching Alan Shearer on their podcast on YouTube, and he was basically saying if he doesn't want to play for them, no one's bigger than the club. And I think we've all got that mentality, but when he's going all the way to Real Sociedad to go and train, that's when it's not just an injury that's going on. He's decided, and they have a sell-on clause, by the way. They've got I think it's 10%.
It's in their interest, isn't it?
It's in their interest to sort of talk him round to ending up going to Liverpool. So I can understand why they're not too upset about him kicking up a fuss and going over there and training on his own. And the moment he started to come back to Newcastle, I thought, maybe Eddie Howe's going to try and talk him round now. Maybe it'll be a case of he'll realise Liverpool can't get him, you know, Sesko's going somewhere else, they can't get a replacement, and then he'll sort of just bed back in. He's their best player. They're just going to be kind to him. I thought it'd be one of those situations where they realised his value, no matter how much he kicked off. I thought they'd look at him and be like, right, well, to be honest, you are our best player, so there's not much we can do. You have kicked off, but if you are going to stay, even if it's reluctantly, you know, we'll be fine. Come into training, you know, we'll act as though we're not happy with you, but you're still going to train with us because we need you. And that's just not happened whatsoever. Like you were saying about PR before, did they go over to Korea? Was it Asia that they went over to?
Singapore was
yeah. So they went over there, and like you've said, a lot of those things are massive PR stuff for the club, and to not have Alexander Isak there. Also, the kit launches, if you noticed, he wasn't in any of the images. Exactly. Yeah. He is literally, at the minute, he's the face of Newcastle for me when you think about them. So for them to be putting him in this situation where he's literally just not even allowed to come in until after everyone's left, it feels as though they're just letting him use the facilities until he's out the door, which is what I'm telling myself. But they've got to get a replacement. I've heard they're looking at Ollie Watkins now, but then you're thinking he's 29. Why would he leave Villa? They literally both finished on the same points. Newcastle just beat them to get in that Champions League football. I'm just a little bit like, why would he leave where he's comfortable? You know, when you're looking at Watkins, I don't know, Champions League football, all that sort of stuff, but there's something for me that's just saying that they're not going to get a replacement, so are they just going to have to deal without?
That still remains, I would suggest, the main stumbling block when it comes to this. I don't really, whilst there's going to be a crazy amount of money put on the table, like Liverpool, I thought we'd already done our marquee signing and the blockbuster one in Florian Wirtz, but this will go beyond that sort of valuation, that sort of fee. So I don't really have much of an issue when it comes to the money, but I do still fear, my only fear really when it comes to this transfer is Newcastle holding out and not budging until they get someone for it. I think Johan Visser's probably going to go there from Brentford, but he's
Callum Wilson's
I'm going to say he told me it was Callum Wilson's replacement. Yeah, which makes complete sense, by the way. Not for a single second, I imagine they are replacing Alexander. I like Johan Visser, but he's not anything like the level. Nicholas Jackson is another name, and we're not going to sit here and talk about the pros and cons of Newcastle's transfer targets, but he is someone I think feasibly who could be viewed as that. I'm not convinced by Ollie Watkins personally. Not a 29-year-old Ollie Watkins anyway. None
of them are Alexander Isak though, so none of the Newcastle. The only thing with the Sesko thing was it was sort of like he could come to Newcastle, try and be the star man, make himself known in the Premier League, that sort of side of it. When they're going for people like Ollie Watkins and stuff like that, you've got to feel underwhelmed if you're a Newcastle
Ollie Watkins could be the Callum Wilson replacement.
Yeah.
He's better than in terms of obviously injury record, he's miles clear of Callum Wilson, and in some way argue a better player.
He's not an Alexander Isak.
But he's not. No, he's not. But as you rightly say, nobody. I think Sesko had room to maybe become that, because obviously Alexander Isak wasn't Alexander Isak when he arrived at the football club from Sociedad. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it's a fascinating one. It really is. And as you rightly pointed out, like Sociedad doing Liverpool a favour compared to what they were doing last summer. I'm just glad he's come back from the mountains of San Sebastian. It seemed impossible to get people away from there at one stage. Let's talk about the Liverpool side of things just briefly, because the finances involved, whilst I, just brush off the fact it's going to cost us upwards of, what do we offer, 110, with add-ons, it's going to be upwards of 120, 135 has been mentioned, 150 has been mentioned. Are you completely comfortable with Liverpool doing that? Like, I've seen some sort of discourse on Twitter today that maybe some people aren't absolutely at ease with Liverpool doing this sort of stuff in the summer. It doesn't bother me in the slightest, by the way. I think we've kept our powder dry for long enough, and clearly we're in a position now whereby we can go and just be outlandish in the market. But yeah, Liverpool have done a lot of business this summer on our terms, and we've done some really smart business in and out. If we then go one step further and put down £140 million for Alexander Isak, is that all good?
I think I used to be one of those fans that tried to justify the way we were all net spend and stuff like that. So I used to always be like, oh no, we don't spend like that. I was very snobby about the fact that we didn't spend like that, but it was sort of just justifying it to myself. You know what I mean? When Man City and other teams were just absolutely putting so much money down on the table, and we were getting players like Chiesa in Arne Slot's first season, and Mamadashvili wasn't even coming yet. I was thinking to myself, oh, this is getting a little bit much now, where we need to build, you've got to support a manager. So now we've won the Premier League with basically Klopp's team, I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, spend whatever he wants. If that's Arne Slot's way, if that's the way Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes want to do things, then let them do it, because I just trust them fully, because for however long we've had them, they've always been, the club as a whole, FSG as a whole, they've always made sure that we've never been touching that PSR breach. You know, we've never come anywhere near. And to be fair, we've just won the Premier League. We finished top in that Champions League table, which was worth a lot of money, you know. We've made a lot of revenue when it comes to the last season, even without the likes of Klopp, because I thought stuff like that would dip once he went, because it felt like he was a big selling point, but no, not at all. We've built up enough money to be able to afford a summer like this. And if the likes of Richard Hughes think that we've still got enough money to be able to sign Alexander Isak, the opportunity doesn't come around very often, and especially when he's 25, isn't he? When he's 25, to be able to go and get him and probably get the best years out of him for that amount of money. I mean, when you've just signed Ekitike for like, what was it, 70, 80, something like that. It's I seen Carragher talking about it this morning on the overlap. It's a little bit of a sickener to be thinking that's going to be a backup player that you're spending that types of money on. But, you know, when you're trying to create a dynasty and you're trying to win league titles and Champions Leagues and not just be going for one thing at a time, you know, obviously we were unlucky against PSG in the end. Not that we played that well, though, to be fair. It was all down to penalties and Darwin Nunez, who I'm sure we'll probably come on to. But it just feels as though, to me, maybe this is the time where we do just need to spend all that money, reinvest, and then don't be... if we do sign Alexander Isak, don't be expecting us to spend anywhere near the same amount for like another 5 years.
No, I think you're right. I think we will have to sort of, definitely reserve our judgment on summers to come, because this feels
this is the one summer. They're like, that's your lot. That's all you get.
And we are. This is what we've done thus far, as well as maybe what's to come, because I think there's 2 or 3 more positions that need to be rectified before the summer's out. I think we're all completely comfortable with that as well, to be honest. But you're right. I think Liverpool fans, myself included, but I think we were led by Jurgen Klopp on that badge of honour when it comes to net spend and not needed. We have the song. We've got their money. We will. You know what I mean? We really sort of celebrated that fact.
Sing that?
I don't think we can. I mean, we can, but we'd be hypocrites.
Red's got loads of money.
Loads of all the money, and we're probably going to win the league. No, but yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? But ultimately, it's not my money. And I'm more than happy to see Liverpool just blowing the rest of the league out the water, really, which is kind of what we're doing. But again, it stems from being so good in the market for so many years when it comes to not really spending lavishly and, again, recouping lots of money on lots of footballers. Just to finish on Isak before we move on to a few different bits and bobs stories-wise, incomings and outgoings, the player and what he brings. Like, I'm a big admirer of Hugo Ekitike and what we've done in terms of bringing him in. I think there's a real player there and a real talent there, and somebody that will be a star for Liverpool at some point. But you touched on it a moment ago, like in terms of finished article, in terms of plug and play, there's your centre forward for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever amount of years. Like, Isak was dreamland territory and a possibility right now, Abby. Like, what a signing, what a footballer, like unbelievable if we can indeed get this one over the line.
At the start of the summer, if you'd have asked 99% of fans would have said, I want Alexander Isak. That would have been the first signing anyone wanted through the door. And I can remember being on these shows and being like, I know it's a pipe dream, I know it's probably not going to happen, but it sounds as though now, from what's coming out in certain articles from different journalists, the owners were thinking the same. They were thinking he's our first choice. He's the one that was saving that big pile of money for. And obviously we go and get Wirtz, and I think, right, there's that big pile of money gone. We'll probably maybe go and get Gay. You know, we need players like that, but we're not going to go and spend big one more time. Then you get Ekitike for like 70, 80, and you're thinking, right, Newcastle wanted him. We've ended up taking him off them. There's no chance we go and get Isak. Clearly the owners were thinking something completely different and thinking the same as us, that he's what, not, well, do you know what, you could say once in a lifetime player. You know, he can pass us by if we don't get him, and you never know what he could contribute. He's just unbelievable. He's such an amazing player. When he played against us, every single time it just felt like an audition for him, and that League Cup final,
flying colours,
yeah, exactly. He's just unbelievable. I would pay 200 million just to get Alexander Isak through the door, because it's one of those opportunities that I just feel as though if we get to next summer and we're sort of settled with Ekitike and things like that, we might not want to start, you know, rocking the boat, disrupting things. Maybe we don't go and get Isak then, but then maybe his prices drop more. I don't know. It's confusing, but if it was up to me right now, we'd be getting him through the door no matter how much it costs.
Yeah, no, I think your wish may well come true, because it feels so on, like so. And again, in spite of the Ekatike thing, I was obviously away, I think, Hong Kong, and when he arrived in Hong Kong, you go, well, that's put pay to any Isak hopes I had, really, because you're not going to do that, and then lo and behold, we are. And then the Sesko thing even last night, but then all this news coming out now, you go, he's really not happy there. And Newcastle, on the flip side, really aren't happy with him. So I think there will be some sort of compromise and there will be a deal to be done. Just numbers-wise, 27 goals, 6 assists in 42 appearances. That's all comps last season. 23 and the 6 assists, all in the Premier League in 34 appearances. Just to finally say on him, do you have any reservations whatsoever when it comes to his injury record, his availability? Because that is the only, if there is a slight cross against his name, it is that. But I think he was better last season when it comes to that. But also, we do have Hugo Ekatike. So I guess that's what he's there for in a way. Like, we'll see more of him than that, of course we will. But we're not so heavily reliant on him, because Newcastle have been heavily reliant on Alexander Isak to lead the line and to be the focal point of their attack. Callum Wilson injured himself a lot of the time, so it's been all Isak. We're not quite so dependent on him, so I'm not particularly concerned. I don't know about you.
You fit in perfectly at Liverpool if you've got a bad injury record.
True,
we like to take risks on players like that, and a lot of the time it
not
hasn't
always
worked
£150 million risk.
Yeah,
but,
not an £150 million risk, no. But when you have just went and spent like 70-80 million on Ekatike, maybe it is worth it to take that risk. It doesn't feel like a gamble at all. I don't know about you, but there's nothing about it. Even if with his injury record, you look at last season, he really wasn't that bad. The numbers that he can put in. It feels as though to me that this is planning towards Mo Salah's exit.
Yes.
We've got 2 more years out of Mo Salah, and it just feels as though we're looking at the goal contributions we get out of Mo are unbelievable. He basically did the majority of the work last season. I know he dropped off towards the end of the season, as he tends to do, to be fair, but I feel like we're just planning for his exit. And if I could get Mo Salah to sign another 2-year deal for after the 2 years are finished, I definitely would, because I love him and it just doesn't feel like he's going to slow down. But we do need to plan for the future, because these players do not last forever. And if you can get Isak, at 25, 150 million, and you never know. It feels as though Arne Slot's focusing a lot on injuries now. It feels as though the way he's training and the way he's doing warm downs and stuff like that, from what I've read, he's focusing a lot on trying to stop players from getting injured. So you never know. He might bring Isak in and, touch wood, he never gets another injury ever again. You never know what could happen, but he feels like one of those players that, even if it is a risk in terms of injuries, he is Premier League proven. He's probably the best striker, apart from Haaland maybe, in the league, in the world, possibly. You never know. Everyone's looking for a striker right now, and if you can get one of the best ones in the world for under 200 million, when everyone's desperate, I think we've just got to go and do it.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Like Liverpool's mantra last season in the transfer market was opportunistic, and as market opportunities go, if Isak has suddenly become one, Liverpool would be foolish not to be at that table. And again, all the PSR headroom that we've built up, the money we've had coming in, obviously we're going to touch on Darwin Nunez in part 2. Looks like there's another decent influx of cash coming in. The Diaz funds recently, there's been a couple of small sales, there may be well more to come on that. So when it's all said and done, come September the 2nd or whatever it is, when the transfer market closes, we probably won't be too much when it comes to our spending. You know what I mean? It probably won't be too much in the black of what we've actually outlaid. There'll be some, clearly, but it won't be as crazy as people think, because the headlines, outgoings don't make the headlines really when it comes to Sky Sports and what have you, and just general rival fans. They just focus on what we actually spent. But actually, I think when you count all the pennies in a few weeks' time, we'll be there or thereabouts anyway. So, yeah, not overly concerned. We've got a couple more incomings to touch upon before we move on to those outgoings. The generally, Abby, it's just about centre-halves, basically, because there's a pressing need for one, I think it's fair to say, and it was laid bare by Monday night's doubleheader friendly, because Trey Naoni starts the first one as centre-back alongside Andy Robertson, who captains the team, neither of whom are centre-halves, and the second one, Ibu Konate, sound, alongside Wataru Endo, also not centre-half. Wellesley Lucky and Amara Nallo come on, young, not ready, not proven centre-half, certainly not established. So, yeah, before we go into names and what could and couldn't happen in that department, with Joe Gomez being out, Virgil van Dijk's ill, but that won't last long, obviously. Pulled the sickie, yeah. Wrap him in cotton wool, hopefully. But the requirement for Liverpool to go and do a centre-half as a priority, Isak's great. but it's pretty obvious something's got to give there.
Yeah, Isak is literally just like an extra bonus, a very expensive extra bonus. But if you're actually looking at what players we've got and what we actually need desperately, it's a centre-back. We're absolutely desperate. And when you're thinking about Konaté's contracts running down, and there was talks at the start of the window, oh, just cut our losses on Konaté, don't let him go on a free in the summer, just sell him now. There's absolutely no chance Liverpool Football Club are selling Konaté when we're in the, not the state, but when we're in the situation that we're in, where we literally, when Virgil van Dijk's sick, we are in a bad situation. I understand we sold Quanta for a reason, and, you know, he's probably going to go and develop much better at Leverkusen, but we need another one of them, basically. We need another Quanta to come in and sort of be able to fill that role. And, you know, we were all talking about Quanta as if he was going to be the next Van Dijk, and then so you never know what's going to happen, whoever comes in. I know we're not naming names yet, but that's a desperation point for me. Because right now we've got 3 left-backs who, to be fair, I'd rather Kirkes starts most games. But I'm all right with all of them, no matter who we see on the team sheet. But we need centre-backs. We're going to be in a situation next summer where if Konaté does go on that free, which it's looking more and more likely, his Instagram post with all that Route 66 stuff, did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
That was stressing me out. So I'm in a situation now where I'm just thinking, even if while all this stuff's going on with Isak, where it won't be that sort of dance that's going on, but go and sign a centre-back. Just go and get one, get it over the line so we can stop worrying about it. I'd want 2, to be honest. I want 2, but at the end of the day, if we can just get 1 through the door, I mean, there's a lot left of the window. There's still a lot of time, but it doesn't feel as though things are pushing on as fast as all of a sudden Alexander Isak.
No, absolutely. So much focus and attention, certainly from like the outside world and us as fans, is on Alexander Isak. You'd imagine the people in the room, in the recruitment room, are too smart not to be paying attention. They've got eyes as well. They've seen who started a Monday night, you know what I mean, who's not available, because unfortunately, once again, like I say, Joe Gomez is sidelined indefinitely. I'm not quite sure how long that's for, but yeah, I don't think we can even...
You can't rely on Gomez.
You
even when I'm naming centre-backs, when I'm talking about right-backs, no matter what, it's sad to say, but you can't count Gomez in that. You can't, because he just gets injured every single time, and it's heartbreaking, because when he's on form, he's absolutely brilliant. When he can stay fit, he's had some unbelievable seasons for us at centre-back, but it hasn't happened, and it doesn't feel as though that's going to click in again. Sadly, hopefully it does. I hope I'm wrong, but I think we've got to start future planning, and don't be counting Gomez in that. I mean, Arne Slot does when he's talking, but you can't include him.
No, maybe, and Arne Slot hasn't had the full Joe Gomez experience yet. As much as you're right, he has been incredible for him. The season we won the league, not this time, the one before, he was brilliant, I thought, alongside Van Dijk, but he hasn't quite, like I say, hasn't seen how injured he can be and how unavailable he can be. And to your point earlier on, and somebody else mentioned it in the comments as well, like, Arne Slot did improve Liverpool's injury record last term. The only one he hasn't really managed to get to grips of yet is probably Joe Gomez. Like, Conor Bradley's not a million miles away from that category, being injured right now as well. Yeah, but Joe Gomez seems to just forever have problems. This is a shame, because I really like him as a person and indeed a footballer. The one thing I did want to ask you before we dive into a couple of options in the market, Andy Robertson, the centre-back. Listen, I'm not in love with it as well, I can see your face. But we do own 3 left-backs. There's been nothing. Since the Andy Robertson to Atletico Madrid stuff went cold a few weeks ago, there's been no talk whatsoever about either Robbo or Tsimikas leaving the football club. Now, that might change. But if we do go into the season with 3 senior, recognised left-backs, something's got to give. And Andy Robertson, the centre-back, might just be the option. Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying it. I can't believe I'm... But if we only... you said a minute ago, I want 2. Same, I want 2. If it is just 1, and we do keep the 3 left-backs, all of a sudden, you're looking at Wataru Endo and a bit of Robbo. Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. If we, let's say... I know we're not naming names, but if we do go and get Gay or whatever, if you've got Andy Robertson, then you've got Endo, they probably do the job. But we've had seasons before where we've ended up with, you know, you go back to the times where we had Rhys Williams and Nat Phillips at the back, and everything just felt like it was falling apart. But they did the job most of the time. But you know, it's one of those situations where I just think you've got to try and get 2 in. You can't be relying on having 3 left backs there and trying to play Andy Robertson at centre back. It just he's okay. It's not the end of the world. And I understand maybe Robertson's thinking, right, that Atletico Madrid move didn't work out. It doesn't look as though anyone else is coming in for me. Maybe he'll get the vice captaincy. We haven't 100% had it confirmed who it actually is. Slot won't tell us, so maybe he's vice captain. Maybe we'll end up in a situation where he gets his game time, we'll be filling in those games at centre-back possibly, because I just can't see Kirkes not playing. And Costas, for some reason, has just gone, not going anywhere. You and me have had this conversation. He's posting absolutely every image in the new kit. He's absolutely loving it. He's posting big captions about how he loves being at Liverpool. Kostas Tsimikas is not going anywhere until his contract runs down. I don't think that lad is going to sit it out and wait it out. Even if he only plays 1/2 an hour all season, he doesn't care. He just wants to be here. So at the end of the day, maybe that's Andy Robertson's way of thinking, right, well, I'll get a little bit of game time there. I'll fill in possibly for Kirkes at times. I don't know where Kostas is going to fit in this, but maybe that's a temporary solution. Maybe if we get one in and then maybe another one in January if we're in dire need. We've got to remember the January window is there. If we get to a bad situation by the time January comes around, I'm sure Liverpool will put the hand in their pocket again to try and fix that. But it doesn't feel perfect for me. And, you know, the moment Virgil van Dijk isn't there, you just see the absolute hole that it leaves, an absolute massive hole. So in him, that was in both games, to be fair, against Athletic Club. When he's not there, he makes everyone around him stronger. So
it's just his presence, obviously his quality when he's called upon to do stuff. But you're right, it's that organisation. It's just him being around makes everyone calmer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The leader at the back, 100%.
Andy Robertson's a good leader, though. To have Andy Robertson there, he is a good leader. He's Scottish captain. Do you know what I mean?
I'm all for Robertson staying at the football club. When the Madrid stuff was happening, I was not in favour of that at all. And the vice captains, I think it might be Mo, actually. But if it was Robbo, wouldn't bat an eyelid. Absolutely sound by me. And obviously, whoever it is knows, just nobody else knows, which is a strange situation in itself. But yeah, the centre-back stuff, listen, he's not big enough, he's not quick enough. So he just isn't a centre-back as well. I think it's sort of like a back three in certain situations, maybe from the left side. He's done that for Scotland. Yeah, possibly. But yeah, in an ideal world, it isn't him. And Kostas Tsimikas, I almost admire just how much he loves being there.
Stubborn.
I've come full circle on him. Like forever, I've been like, go and play footy somewhere, lad. You know what I mean? You're not getting past Robbo. Now we've signed Kirkes. Just go and be the first choice left back somewhere. And he just loves being around so much. And now I'm just like, do you know what? Fuck it. Just stay.
If he loves the football club, if he's decided you can't knock it. You know, he signed a contract. If he wants to fulfil that contract and stay here, then we can't force him out the door. But like you were saying before, it feels as though maybe Robertson's moving into that sort of Milner role where it's like you want his presence around the changing rooms. Maybe he's getting older, but you know, he can do a job here and there. So maybe it is just about having those leadership roles still around. You know, we're very lucky that we've got the likes of Mo Salah, Virgil, Robertson. You know, well, there's so many players, to be fair. Even McAllister could end up, you know.
Szoboszlai's hungry captain. You know Alisson's a leader in his own right. Yeah.
We are a team of leaders, so I'm more than fine for him to stay, but please still sign at least one centre-back. If we could go and, if we can go and get Gay from Palace, I'd have a bit of relief, you know what I mean? I wouldn't be fuming at the window if we don't get Isak, as long as we get a centre-back. Obviously, I still want Isak.
No, absolutely that. And what I will say about Robertson, having been fortunate enough to be at open trainings and obviously a little bit behind the scenes when it comes to the stuff over in Hong Kong and Tokyo, he is absolutely everything at training in terms of the noise and the energy that he brings and just his presence vocally. Like Van Dijk goes about his business and is captain and leader in his own right, obviously. But in terms of who is giving people bollockings left, right and centre, who is the fun but also the sit, it's Robertson, Andy Robertson. He was everything, honestly. He was brilliant. Let's do the Mark Gahey thing just briefly then. It's gone relatively quiet. There was some talk yesterday. Ed Aarons reported that Palace initially wanted like 50 million. That's now dropped to 40 was the figure that he used. I think Liverpool's need is so dire for a centre-back. I don't think... I mentioned earlier on how Richard Hughes has sort of like led negotiations so well across ins and outs so far this summer, and you're getting a lot of praise for doing so. In an ideal world, Liverpool would hold out on Gahey and get him for like a real cut price, like 30, maybe million. I don't think we're in a position to do that now with Mark Gahey. If Mark Gahey's the one we've chosen, we can't wait, and we've done this in the past whereby we did it with Van Dijk. We said we couldn't get the one we wanted, so we just sit and wait. Liverpool don't have that luxury right now. We aren't afforded that because of the lack of options. And I do think the price at 40 is slightly higher than what would be ideal, but you've just alluded to it there a moment ago. Like, even at 40 million, English, 24, Premier League proven. It just feels like an absolute no-brainer to me.
It just ticks all the boxes, doesn't it? It's everything that we've been looking for. You know, everyone was going on about English quotas and all that sort of stuff. And then this player who's literally 24 is right there. Is he 24, 25?
Yeah. And sorry, just to say as well, to your point a moment ago, just he's a captain. Another captain,
another
you know what I mean?
leader.
So, yeah.
And you know, they've just won silverware, so he's probably on a high there for more. And I don't know if Crystal Palace is the place. Maybe he will next season, who knows? But Liverpool's definitely a place that you come to, and you hopefully at the end of the season you're walking away with a couple of trophies under your arm. So it probably feels right for him as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's sort of pushing that move at Palace. But at the end of the day, they can't be expecting loads of money when he's hardly got any time left on his contract. They can't be forcing us to, well, not forcing, but, you know, when they know he's our first choice, possibly our only option in terms of what we're looking for, they're going to try and get a couple more million out of us. And when we're spending the way we are, left, right and centre, they know we've got money in our pocket. So if we would have tried to go for him at the beginning of the season, before we'd done anything, before Liverpool had spent a penny, and we sort of, you know, work the negotiations well, I think we might have got him maybe 35, you know, round that up. Maybe if we'd have talked our way into, we've got no money, you know, the way we always do, we're not spending. I think we might have got him a little bit cheaper, but now they know how much we want him, so maybe we will end up paying a little bit over what we want to. But I'm more than happy for us to do so. Like we've said, it's not our money. No. It's not our money, and you know, if it makes us win the Champions League as well as the league, you know, if you've got those leadership roles there at the back, you know, it's what we want, isn't it?
Yeah, there's clearly a deal to be done, isn't it?
He wants the move. We know he wants the move. So, exactly. And I can imagine, I know Palace are probably saying there isn't room for us to have any conversations. They shut down Newcastle so much when they wanted him that it's at a point now where if Liverpool comes knocking, you know, we're a bit like, we're getting into that stage of Man United years ago where it was, if you're one of the best players in the league, Man United came knocking on the door, you made the move, where hopefully it feels as though moving towards that, where when Liverpool come knocking, you know, hopefully you're going to end up with a title of some sort. So you've got to go, you've got to take that move.
Without a shadow of a doubt, yeah. Billy Hogan said something recently, like we needed to start acting like the biggest club in the world, and that is absolutely exactly what we're doing, yeah, and players have responded in kind as well. We're just going to quickly have a quick break, but before we do, we're going to speak about outgoings afterwards. A couple of super chats before we do. One from Aaron Garza says, it might be a hot question, but does Isak's actions cause any concern? Coutinho didn't act this way even when he requested a transfer. The bad back thing was a thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, he sort of did. He said his back was killing him.
I must admit, I think Isak has gone a couple of steps further than Coutinho, but it's still, we've got on. What if Vale or Barca come calling one day from Liverpool? Any concerns about his character, Abby?
Normally I would. I was always like, right, we've got a no idiots policy. It definitely felt like that under Jürgen. There was a no idiots policy. Everyone had to be like, you know, respectful and level-headed and stuff like that. And that's not exactly what Isak's doing here. But at the end of the day, that might be the only way. Maybe his agents, who knows who's advising him, but that might be the only way he gets this move, you know. You know, if he was just sat there in normal training and stuff and just carrying on like normal, I don't think they'll give him the move. He's got to kick off, basically. And I'd never normally advise that or want that type of behaviour from hopefully a Liverpool player, but I think this is a unique case where he's got to push, and I don't know if that's just me being like, you
because
want the player, you know, because normally I'd be like, he's clearly got an attitude. You know, you'd see some Man United players, which I won't name, but you'd just be like, I would not want that personality or that attitude at Liverpool. This time I'm a little bit,
make allowances for Alexander Isak.
I'll make allowances for one of the best strikers in the world right now. I just think he had no choice. That's what I think, he had no choice.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I 100% understand the question. I think it's fair to say I get why people would think like that and see it as not the sort of personality you maybe do want it with at your football club. But I think there's also more factors at play. I think the fact that he didn't get the contract offer he was promised by Newcastle, that's probably annoyed him, put his nose out of joint a little bit as well. You've mentioned it, when Liverpool come calling, that probably turns anybody's head right now in world football, it's fair to say. And also the training on his own stuff, whilst not a great look in terms of the optics of it all. Keith Downey again told me yesterday he's got like his own team of people entirely, so it wasn't completely out of the ordinary. Newcastle were kind of okay with it at the same time, so I'm not sure how bad. It's been dramatised far worse than maybe it was. Finally, before we do go on a quick break, Nader Kafel says, do we think Isak is coming?
I said 60% before, didn't I? But after we've had this conversation, I'm starting to think, yeah, I do think he is. Even if they don't get a replacement.
Still saying 60?
I said 60, but our conversation, I'll say 80%. I think 80%. What do you think?
I thought I was going to get 70 at the end. I'll say I'm convinced. I think Isak will be a Liverpool player. I'm convinced.
I can't see, and now when I'm thinking about it, I can't see where it all goes wrong and how they carry on with him.
No.
Do you know what I mean? How do you go on? How do you carry on after this? Because that's going to be the conversation.
Well, the conversation we've just had about characters, personalities, leaders to a certain extent in the dressing room, Newcastle would be well within their right to have that conversations about bringing him back in. Because Eddie Howe said it's about how people act in terms of earning the right to train with us. Like Isak, that has pissed off Newcastle, the football club, and Newcastle, the fan base. Alan Shearer, you mentioned it, that there is an animosity towards him now because of the way he's gone about this. We don't hold that. It's like he's not ours. He wants to come to us. So we look at that and go, fucking hell, this is boss. Like one of the best strikers in world football wants to be with us. So much so that he's going to these lengths. Newcastle look at that in completely the opposite way. Like our guy who we've loved, adored, made tifos of in the stand suddenly wants to act in this manner to force a move out. Yeah, we have.
Yeah. We know how it feels. We understand why you feel that way. But, you were all telling us to get a grip when Trent Alexander-Arnold wanted to go to Real Madrid and we were all kicking off. So, take some of your own advice. So
swings and roundabouts and all that. There it is. There was a line. And we'll have this break now. We'll be back in literally a minute. We've uncovered a host of Liverpool legends that we believe are owed medals from seasons in the past. It startled me, some of the people we're discussing here, because you just don't expect it.
Jan Molby, what a pass for the football.
He made the game look easy.
Couldn't bring into the team, he was one of the best teams the club's ever had.
Going back to the group I was with, Sammy Lee was the one who made it into the first team, but he had to get ahead of Jimmy Case.
Sammy just was so in the infancy of his career.
Although it was frustrating, I knew even when the time come, then I'd be ready.
Phil Neal, the most decorated Liverpool player of all time.
Dad liked him and Liverpool signed him.
The chief scout, he said to me, I went home and told Bob Paisley, go and buy him now.
I don't think anyone can speak about David Fairclough without saying super sub.
Part of the conversation I had with Bob Paisley while I was away seemed to intimate that perhaps they were tiring a little bit of me.
Gary Gillespie was huge.
Tasked with the job of breaking up Alan Hansen and Mark Lawrenson.
Ronnie Rocket. He just took the league by storm.
No one was going to knock him off the ball. Battering ram who could go through defenders.
Now it's about getting the Liverpool legends. You've just heard all about the medals. They were never officially awarded. Hello, welcome back to the Transfer Podcast. That was more me than I expected during the break. Apologies for that. No, do go and watch Unawarded. It's our most recent piece of documentary work here at Redmen, and yeah, I'm very proud of it, and hopefully you guys enjoy it too. Abby, I can only assume you've watched it.
I have. I've watched it a million times. Definitely as it was getting edited with Joe. If anyone doesn't know, Joe is my partner, so I was sat there as he was editing it, trying to get it right, and all the
Sick
work.
of the sight of it now.
Sick of the sight of it, but it was absolutely amazing, and honestly, the work he's put into it was just unbelievable. It is so good. I was making everyone watch it. I was like, Dad, watch this. Everyone watch this. It's so good. So yeah, everyone needs to watch it. It is really good. 100 times I recommend. Around the 100
ideally,
times mark.
Ideally, and it all every time. And honestly, I am really proud. I'm really pleased with the feedback and everything else, and some of and what will happen next. I'm also really pleased with as well. So yeah, exciting. Check it out, and then do let us know and leave a like and all that YouTubey stuff. My outgoings now. Tyler Morton. Abby no longer plays for Liverpool, having been at the football club since he was 7, which is something in itself. I'm a huge admirer of Tyler Morton as a human being and as a footballer. Really uncomplicated, which sounds like I'm doing him a disservice. It is supposed to be a compliment. But yeah, I think when he was called upon by Jurgen Klopp, primarily, away at Spurs and against Porto at home in the Champions League, I think he did a job. And he had a couple of good low moves. Injuries really sort of hurt him last season. But yeah, good move for him, and 15 million plus 20% sell on. Good move for Liverpool. Yeah,
Jurgen did an amazing job of getting proper games out of some of those young lads. There was times where you just thought, these kids are going to be playing for us next season starting, and obviously it doesn't end up that way. But he was one of those players and names that you just kept saying, like, Morton's going to be really good, and like you've said, injuries just can absolutely stall a career. But Arne Slot, as a manager, to me, he doesn't seem like the type, maybe with Rio, maybe with certain players, where he will sort of bring them into the fold, but it didn't feel as though like that too much with Morton for me. It felt as though he didn't favour him too much, and it wasn't the time for him to be going on more loan moves. It was time for him to move on and actually start his career properly, because you get to a certain age when you're, coming out of the under-21s, you're trying to get first team minutes, and that's not going to happen at Liverpool Football Club now. Like you've said, we're trying to be the best team in the world, and we're trying to perform like that, and you don't really do that by starting all your academy and trying to get them minutes and stuff like that, maybe in cup competitions. But he's at an age now where he needs to go out, and I think Leon would be a really good one for him, plus the money. I love, honestly, 20%? Is it 20%? Sell-on clause. Yeah. I mean, Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, just unbelievable business to be able to do that. It's the same as the way we've got the buyback clause on Quanta. We're always thinking ahead, and we do believe in our youth. We do think that our academy is quality and can produce players who will go on to do really well. Otherwise, we wouldn't be putting on buyback clauses or 20% sell-on clauses. It's because we believe that they probably will end up moving on and doing well. So, fair play to the kid. I hope he does well. It feels like a good move.
No, absolutely. I wish him all the best. I've had a few interactions with Tyler down the years, and he's just a good individual, ultimately. So, I hope he does well. And interestingly enough, we won't spend much time talking about this, but two of the sort of the fallout situations from Tyler's move was Liverpool's sort of promotion of Trainioni into first team reckoning, which we kind of all knew, but it was kind of confirmed yesterday as well. And Liverpool are hopeful Stefan Bajcetic will be back fit soon and available, and seemingly an option for Arne Slot. So let's see what that looks like. As people may know, I'm a huge Stefan Bajcetic fan as well. So let's hope that comes to pass. Next up, Harvey Elliott. RB Leipzig last night seemingly making their move for Harvey. They are anticipating the departure of Xavi Simons to Chelsea, and Harvey has been sort of earmarked as the replacement. Now, David Ornstein was reporting on this one, Blake. To talk again about Harvey was the fee, but there was interestingly note about a buyback clause in that one as well, like a certain fee without a buyback clause, and the same Quanta sort of script again. But I think the long and short of it is we are all, and Harvey kind of said goodbye to him for a little bit the other night, it looked like, but we're all expecting some movement on Harvey Elliott soon. It's
felt like a goodbye for a really long time. On the last game of the season, I was sat in Lower Main, and his dad was just behind me in the hospitality, and he was filming every moment. And I was told by the people around me, he does film a lot, but he was getting absolutely every second of Harvey, zooming in on him, trying to make sure that he got every moment of Harvey in a Liverpool kit. I thought there and then, that's the end. And then we've ended up seeing him in the new kit, and, he was at Anfield, but it felt like he was going round and he was saying goodbye. You and me have had conversations about Harvey where we were saying we don't want to see him in the Premier League. I wouldn't mind too much if he ends up getting that move to Spurs. Maddison just getting injured. He feels like a top six. I know Spurs aren't exactly top six at the minute when they're lying just above the relegation, but, it does feel as though he deserves to be at a big club like that, and Leipzig are probably a big club, and that way we don't have to play against them, hopefully only in Europe, maybe once. It'd be nice just to be able to, check in on him and seeing that he's doing okay far away, rather than him actually having any sort of damage and impact on our title hopes, because he is good enough to do that in the Premier League. He's an unbelievable player. He's one that I've hoped for so long was going to be able to get through and get a place in the first team. But when you're signing players like Wirtz, he's got no chance. And, he likes playing on the right wing as well. You've got Mo Salah there. He's unlucky in some ways that he's at this football club, his boyhood club, because he's just got really low chances of being able to bully his way through past some of those players.
And nobody's more aware of that than Harvey Elliott. Like, I spoke to him.
It's breaking his heart.
It is, because he absolutely adores this football club in the same way that you and I do. Like, nobody's more proud to put on Liverpool shirt every single time he does it. He is that, to coin an old phrase, fan on the pitch. Like, he absolutely would run his socks off and his heart out for Liverpool. But I think he knows. He looked at his game time last season and probably was disappointed by how limited it was. And he's coming into this season having time for Florian Wirtz. and going, okay, World Cup year as well, it's worth mentioning, because I mentioned this yesterday on the podcast. I think, like, he's completed under 21's footy now. He's won the Euros, player of the tournament, scored tons of goals in it as well, absolutely lit up the whole competition. He should be looking at that as like line in the sand, springboard into the World Cup next year. But to do that, he needs to play football somewhere, and regular football, not just 10 minutes here and there for Liverpool, which is kind of what he's reduced to for us last season. So yeah, I do think the time has come. And again, Liverpool doing all this business in terms of outlay. I think the 40 million was the figure mentioned if there's a buyback clause, and 50. So it's a good chunk of money again, and he's worth it. Let's be honest, Abby, because you said he's an exceptional footballer. It just so happens that the pecking order at Liverpool is so strong, and what he brings isn't quite enough, I don't think, for Slot. Definitely. Jurgen Klopp, to be fair, I think towards the end of his tenure, he said he wished he'd used Harvey more. Yeah. But that's kind of been the story of Harvey Elliott's time when he's been fit at Liverpool.
I think that was his message to Slot, wasn't it? It was something to do with, I wish I'd have played Harvey more. That was like the message he was giving to Slot. And then Slot just comes in and goes, oh yeah, you feel like that, but I don't fancy him. And it was sort of one of the little sad things to last season was seeing Harvey just not getting picked at all. And, you know, you're seeing the likes of, I know they're different players, but you're seeing Curtis then getting picked in England squads, and he's still playing for the under-21s. And in my opinion, Harvey's a stronger player. I know they are different players, but he must be looking at that and thinking, right, well, if Curtis can get into an England squad, I should be able to get into an England squad. And, you know, unbelievable performance for the under-21s for England. That put at least 5 million on his price tag for me. Never mind how good he's been for Liverpool. He was absolutely unbelievable for them. So he's one of those players that I'll be so sad to see go, but I love him enough to sort of want him to go away and do well. You know, normally I'm quite like, oh well, if you want to leave Liverpool, then I don't want to see you do well. You know, you see certain players that wanted to leave, and you just think, you know, Coutinho plays like that, where you just go, I hope it doesn't go well. But Harvey, I've literally got like so much love for him, and so many of us do, because he's just one of us who just loves Liverpool, and you want him to go somewhere like Leipzig and just do amazing, because we know that he can, and he's got so much talent there. And like he said, your career's a short one, and he's getting into his 20s where he should really be, you know, fighting for a first team place somewhere and trying to get, you know, like you've just said, try and get into a proper England team. And that will be one of his dreams as well. You know, I mean, I don't care about England really, I don't support them or whatever, but you can see how much it means to him, and that he wants to achieve that. So the way he's going to do that is not going to be for Liverpool. It's a short career at the end of the day. And who knows, this time in 5 years, we might be talking about Harvey Elliott, the world-class player that we should have kept hold of, but he's got to go and prove that somewhere else, because he's not going to get those minutes to do that here. No,
he's not. And I'd be all for a buyback clause on Harvey for what it's worth. I absolutely would, because I think there is a supreme talent in there. And
we
I
never activate them, though, but you
never
know.
You might
know.
Be the one.
You might be the one.
Leon Bruce has still got his somewhere. No, I think Harvey is definitely worth that for the sake of the extra 10 million. Like I mentioned, I think he would be one where you would want to keep some sort of leverage and insurance policy on him, like in the same way done with Joe Quansah. If we're going to do it for Quansah, I'd be very inclined to do it Harvey, is kind of the point. But again, we may well never need it. But good luck to him whatever happens. I think Leipzig would actually be quite a good move. I think Spurs was the other one we touched upon. Obviously, Maddison's injury, not getting Gibbs White. But I just don't like the fact. For him, it'd be better to stay in the Premier League. But I just don't want to play against him, because I have this inbuilt fear that he'll hurt us. But he might also do us a favour by scoring against City and stuff like that. Or Arsenal. Yeah, there's two ways to look at it.
Still a red deep down, you know.
That's true. Yeah, that's
He'll
true.
pull a sickie when he has to play against us.
Young English lad goes to the Bundesliga. That's a well-trodden and successful path now. So I'm kind of for that. And again, I wish him all the best, because I haven't spoke to him out on tour. He was boss. But clearly...
He's a funny lad as well. When you think about when he was speaking to Still Ryan, do you remember after the derby at Goodison, and that moment where he's like, did you feel the atmosphere? Did you feel the Everton fans? And he goes, no.
Not really,
no. I heard the Liverpool fans. I'll love him now forever.
He's a good lad. Just finally then, Darwin Nunez seems to be one step away from completing his Liverpool exit, Abby.
100% agreed.
100% agreed, according to Romano. Between clubs. So Morton, Darwin Nunez and Al Hilal exclusive story. The agreement club to club with Liverpool is 100% done. There's been journalist wars going on Twitter about this one, but Romano we've gone with. Understand the initial fee will be €53 million plus add-ons, which is around the £45 million mark. And to reach That doesn't make sense. So reach to bring the package higher, kind of. Talks with Darwin ongoing to get a green light on personal terms. So I'm not going to ask you if it's better for everybody if Darwin Nunez leaves, because the answer to that is yes, ultimately, isn't it? Are you at all surprised that he's comfortable heading to the Saudi Pro League and not staying in Europe?
Yeah, that was the one thing for me is, when you were in AC Milan and Napoli and other names like that, I was thinking, oh, perfect. If he can go and carry on proving himself in Europe, he'll do well in European competition. He's only like 25, something like that. You feel as though, is he 26? You feel as though he's strong enough with enough time to be able to go out there and prove himself. I thought that'd be the thing now. He wants to prove himself in Europe after the way it went at Liverpool, but Saudi Arabia come knocking, they've got lots of money, and it might just be the best move for him to try. And you've seen players going to Saudi and then they move on from there after a year. You never know, he might not stay there for long. He might think he'll go over there and score so many goals that there'll be amazing compilations of him out there, and then he'll get a nice move back. You never know, or he might want to stay over there, but feels a little bit temporary for me. It doesn't feel like something that is going to stick. He'll stay there forever. When there was like whispers of him going to Newcastle and stuff like that, that sounded more right, but then it did feel as though he needs to move away from the Premier League entirely, because there's always going to be that thing over him, the whole shit Andy Carroll thing that just constantly gets sang. Then I'm not even sure if he knows who Andy Carroll is still.
He always responded to it, to be fair. He scored like a minute after that was a thing.
Well, exactly. Maybe in Saudi they need to learn the song just to get him to score some goals. But
I was going to say something dreadful then, but I'm going to say need some fans in the stadium first.
Yeah, good point. No, good point. That's one thing when you're going over to Saudi is you've got to accept the fact that it is a project that's not completed yet. It's nowhere near, and there are like 800. Henderson was playing in a crowd against about 800 people, and he got fed up of it and ends up leaving. So it's one of those situations where I can't see him sticking it out for long, but it might be the best thing for all parties right now. It might be the main option out there. AC Milan and other places like that have pulled out of the deal in terms of money. Saudi are the ones who are going to give us the money, so maybe it's a temporary solution for Nunez, but I mean, it's good business for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's nowhere near what we paid for him, but the fact that we're getting money back for him.
45 million up front on Liverpool's books when it comes to, again, PSR, and it will look exceptional business. Actually, it will look really, because he's not, whilst we paid nigh on double that, he isn't worth nigh on double that anymore to us. You know what I mean? Not just in terms of like how he performs as a footballer, but in terms of financially. So yeah, it's really good business.
He was a real gamble, wasn't he? He was a Jurgen signing.
Yeah,
when you think back on things like Michael Edwards was gone, a lot of people have come out and said Jurgen made that decision to sign him. Jurgen liked him, so people are saying. So now you've got the likes of Richard Hughes, and that maybe they wouldn't have made the same decision to bring him in, but every season it just felt as though we were all going, this will be his year, he needs one goal and then he'll go on a run. And it never happened. He'd score that one goal and it never happened. He'd sky the next 10. He'd be offside a million times, and it was really frustrating for him and for us as well to watch. And it just, like, I'm sure we all loved Darwin, we all encouraged him as much as we could, but it hasn't worked out, and it's for the best for everyone for him to move on no matter where he goes. I don't have the same sort of feeling as I do for Harvey, where I'm like, I want him to get the best move possible, somewhere in Europe where he's playing European football. I don't feel the same. I just feel as though this needs to end for all parties now, because he's probably frustrated dealing with all the backlash from the media and even the fans starting to get a little bit fed up. It's time to move on, and he's actually started to look a little bit better in pre-season.
He's had a brilliant pre-season, yeah, which might have encouraged some more suitors, I thought. To be honest with you, I thought maybe some more parties would have come to the table with the sort of money Liverpool wanted. But
he's like that though, isn't he? He's inconsistent.
Yeah.
He'll have a good pre-season and then he shaves his head and then he'll throw his pony back out and we might end up
same old story. He's done it before. And as you rightly referenced there, and frustration is probably the word. When we think back about Darwin Nunez's time, that would be the overriding word that we think of. But he's had some incredible moments, like the St James's Park brace to win us that game of football. I was at Forest away when he scores that late winner. Like, he's at Brentford last year. Like, he's produced. But all them moments to me felt like they should have been line in the sand. Here we go now. Go on, you've got your confidence. You've just had an absolute buzz pinnacle of winning a game so late. Like, just feed off that, use that momentum. Then the next week, it's back to the same old Darwin Nunez.
Yeah, but the moment it's bad the next week, he's deleting all his Instagram
That's the
photos.
thing, yeah.
He's taking Liverpool out of his bio. He's coming out in the media, and then in the January, you're hearing rumours of Saudi. Then, he's talking to them, and there's all that stuff goes on where it felt a little bit immature. It felt a little bit emotional,
yeah.
And maybe he's better off in a situation where it's a fresh start and it's less emotional. This has become very I'm sure we all feel quite hot-headed about the whole situation, that it's probably best for him to move on. But he's had some massive moments for us that we'll always be grateful for. But like you said, every single time I thought he was going to push on and that was going to be it, and he was finally going to prove them wrong. You've got to remember when we signed him, City had Haaland, and then we're playing them in the Charity Shield and all that. And people are talking about who's going to get more goals that season. Yeah. So a lot of Liverpool fans are all right to feel disappointed. It's fine that you felt disappointed with the way that it went, but it's not saying he's a bad player. It just didn't work out. And sometimes that situation can end up getting to you mentally, and then it doesn't work out, and that's not going to help you kick on in any way. So for him to go and get a fresh start somewhere, I think it's for the best. Maybe not Saudi permanently, but
there we go. It's people mentioned in the chat there, maybe we should have kept him until January, wait and see how this Isak thing plays out, but I'm not in that school of thought personally.
If we think we're getting Isak, you've got to let Nunez
and
go.
also, I'm going to bring a super chat up in a minute. We'll talk about alternatives, which is a fascinating conversation. We'll have it briefly, but no, I just think that the keeping of Darwin was just a nonsensical one. Had it been even an option at this point, I do think we're best off just selling it and cashing in as and when possible. And you're right to mention, obviously, the emotions of it all. And I guess the Haaland stuff as well, that came with its own pressure, because he was supposed to be our sort of response to City signing Haaland, and it was so obvious quite quickly that he wasn't that, and that came with scrutiny, and it came with a limelight that he never really got to grips with. He never really got the mindset of being Liverpool's number 9 and the pressures that come with it, so, and the expectations with the price tag as well. Just quickly before I do that, Romano's just tweeted literally moments ago, RB Leipzig have now started discussing contract terms with Harvey Elliott, and discussions are ongoing, and they're waiting to understand the player's decision, so Harvey could well be Bundesliga bound after all. And just finally, I mentioned a super chat a moment ago, and this is from Wesley Golden Robinson. If your middle name is Golden, then I am envious.
I know.
But what a middle name.
I know. That's so good.
Unbelievable. If Isak doesn't work, who is the alternative? Is the one. Is probably the best way.
Do we need an alternative when you've got Ekatike there? Because the whole conversations that we were having before we signed Ekatike was, right, Newcastle are going for Ekatike and going on about playing both of them, and then we've swooped in and took Ekatike. That it felt as though we didn't really... Do you know what I mean? But you do need another attacker there as well, though. So it's who do you go for? I'm not really interested in jumping on any sort of I've heard Mateta, Ollie Watkins. I'm not in the mood to be trying to get Wissa or not. None of it does it for me. Maybe
a huge come down from Alexander Isak. All of those names.
Yeah.
The only one who isn't, I'm not sure how possible it is Julian Alvarez.
Yeah, he to be honest, and I know Chloe said it to me a lot, she preferred him over Isak.
That's insane.
Man, I prefer Isak.
And Chloe said that to me as well. That's insane. I love Julian. Julian Alvarez is excellent.
He's a brilliant player. I was so jealous for so long when he was playing for City. He's not Isak. But he is an alternative. If we're talking about alternatives, he's a good alternative, but he's not going to put up the numbers that Isak does. And
no. We only want to discuss alternatives, is what we're trying to say. Because there aren't many ultimately as well. You're talking about such a
no, but if you think of Ekatike as the Isak replacement, and then just try and think of getting someone a step down, because you're not going to get anyone who matches Isak. Everyone was seeing Ekatike. Do you know what I mean?
So Ekatike becomes
the Isak. He becomes the main, and then you get someone a bit,
You are in Mateta territory then.
Mateta territory then. Do you know what I mean? I can't see a world where Isak doesn't work out and we move that 150 million or anything of the sort onto another striker. I can't see it happening. Is there
a left-winger conversation there? Because Rodrigo's been touched upon. Because at the minute, it looks like Liverpool's solution to losing Luis Diaz is in-house, and it's Rio and Gamoa. And that's exciting, because it's really exciting. Somebody earlier on mentioned Jadon Danns. So I'd love to sit here and put in a case for Jayden Danns being the understudy. Injuries. And not just, injuries, yes, but more what the injuries have meant, just a lack of football. He needs to play football. And until he does that on a consistent, regular basis, I can't sit here and suggest that he is a viable alternative to not signing Isak. Not in terms of the quality and the pedigree, in terms of like the squad.
He's young, it's early on, he hasn't had a lot of game time, he's picked up injuries, but there's nothing I'd love more than us to have this scouse striker who just bagged a loads of goals for us, and to have this energetic young lad who absolutely loves Liverpool. Jayden Danns ending up that is the dream. That will be the end game goal for me, but at the minute that is not the way things are going to go. Like you've said with Rodrigo, it does feel as though he's just a left wing option for me more than anything, though. It feels as though by buying him you're stunting Rio's development. But are we putting too much energy and stuff into Rio then? Is that going to sort of stunt him because there's so much pressure put onto him, to grow and flourish into this amazing winger for us? It's pressure. I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but it doesn't look as though he's not
fazed by anything. That's the problem.
It doesn't look like he's got the world on his shoulders when he's playing.
No, he doesn't, does he? He looks the opposite of that. He's definitely fearless, and that's what I've been most impressed with, actually, when making that step up from academy football to senior football. He just plays the game in the same way, like he's playing with his mates, basically, which has been a joy to watch. The issue you've got is if you are saying, well, Diaz is gone, but we've got Rio. Diaz played like 3,500 minutes last year and scored 17 goals and produced, I think, 8 assists. Like, to just turn to Rio and go, on you go, that is...
But we should be able to expect more minutes from Gakpo. That's one thing for me, is we should be able to expect Gakpo to play more games. Gakpo is my main solution. Gakpo is my main solution. I thought when he was on form, he was better than Diaz last season at times. Diaz was probably more consistent, but still inconsistent in lots of ways. But if Gakpo can just find form and carry on, I don't think we have to worry too much when you've got Rio as a backup. Whereas if we only have Ekitike, it's a little bit of a
something's
worry.
Something's got to be done.
There's no one better than Isak or like Isak. Ekitike was the matchup. You're not going to go and spend that money on someone. You know what I mean? It'd have to be a Mateta. It'd have to be those conversations. That's the way things are going for me, I think. No, it's fair enough. I agree. It's just there's so many moving parts, and obviously the ideal scenario is you end up with Isak, and then you are in dreamland of having him and Ekitike. Do you think Ekitike will be feeling a little bit disgruntled with the way things have gone? Do you think he knew Alexander Isak was still going to be an option, or do you think we've promised him this is your position? I don't think we promised him the shirt exclusively. No, I'd be staggered. For the amount of money we paid for him now? Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think that would have been a conversation about this is your birth now, this is your number 9, roll forever. I just have this, I don't know what it is, I just have this thing where I can just imagine with Ekitike, Newcastle were basically saying to him, you'll be playing. They would have built the team around him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it just feels as though he's come to Liverpool, but then again, it's the name, it's the badge. If you want to come and play for Liverpool, play less games, but you'll win silverware. Yeah. You may as well take the risk. If he backs himself, which most professional footballers do, it's confidence, isn't it? Come and compete for it. Look at Sesko going for Man United. I mean, how many players have thought, I'm going to be the main man who's going to turn up at Man United and change everything? It's not going to happen. It's where talent goes to rot. It's so annoying. It's where talent dies, Old Trafford. Yeah, it's like, how come every single player... I know this isn't about Man United right now, and I know I'm frustrated that he didn't pick Newcastle, because that would have helped us out. But how can you not see Newcastle as a better prospect to Man United right now? Champions League football, Man United finished 15th. The new stadium looks like a circus. It's just... Football club is a circus. Yeah, it looks like a mess to me, and I can't understand how players like Sesko have gone, right, I'm going to choose Man nostalgia. United. Well, money as well. No, I honestly believe it's predominantly nostalgia. The badge, just... Yeah, honestly, yeah. And the status that is Manchester. And I don't like saying that. But look at everyone else's career. I mean, McTominay's left and now he's being nominated for Ballon d'Ors. Not to play. There's millions of reasons not to go there. It's frustrating. But as you say, egos, managers and players are the same. They've all got egos. They all go in, Amrim's done it. They go in thinking, I'm going to be the one. I'm going to be the one. And that gets them to where they are. Again, players and coaches. You know what I mean? It gets them to where they are in the game. So you've got to have a little bit of that. But also, you're right. Common sense would suggest, if you're looking at Manchester United now and go, I'm not going anywhere. But Cunha's done it. And Bremer's not at the same level, because I'm not sure they had the same level of interest in them. But they chose Manchester United exclusively over anyone else because of the badge, because of the history. I feel like we can all see how that's going to go. We can see the way it's going to go, but they can't. And like you've said, it's ego. But If only Sesko would have picked Newcastle, we wouldn't even be having to stress right now.
Alternative wouldn't even be a conversation. But there we go. We wouldn't have had this lovely conversation, would we? So,
exactly.
I'm glad he did in the way. Abby, thank you so much. Massively appreciate you joining me. Everybody else, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Take care. We'll see you soon.